Morning folks, and welcome back to the channel, to the first of this week's reviews. My name's Lee, your virtual airline pilot. I'm back with you again after a reasonably long illness over Christmas and New Year, but feeling a lot better now. So happy New Year to you guys, and thanks again for getting me over the 1,000 subscriber mark. So anyway, to today's video. Where are we? We're in Europe, and we're in Bosnia-Herzegovina, and this is Sarajevo Airport, Lima, Quebec, Sierra Alpha. It's a payware scenery by KISS Simulation, and you're looking at version 1.11 for the PC version of Flight Sim 2020. There was a recent update that's been produced. The download is 901 meg, and it installs at 2.62 gigs, so it's not too bad at all really. Currently available from Sim Market. I'll give you the price. €15.59, which equates to roughly $17.10 US, or £13.41 UK. As ever, US and UK prices are all estimates from the euro, and they do include VAT or tax, which of course may vary depending slightly on which country you're in when you make your purchase. It's a nice airport, fairly simplistic, lots of colour, sits really nicely in the mountain range here. As you can see, it's not too bad at all. Looks pretty good. So let's look at the list of features. They have real-world runway length and profile, adjusted the runway field height, real-world ILS approach angle matching 3.2 degrees. The normal angle is 3 degrees. Added additional airport objects for improved visual references like RVR equipment or ILS antenna. Custom animated runway guard lights or WIGWAGS. Added new terminal building extended from the old one. Custom designed ground vehicles including fuel truck and air stair truck. And a custom pushback truck to match the Goldhofer AST-3. And we'll see that a little bit closer during the look. Updated taxiway to match the real world layout. Custom taxiway and runway weathering to match the real world weathering, and you can see evidence of that from this shot. First look, it's not bad. It's not an extensive scenery. It's quite small, and the work is quite good. But we'll look at the detail, and we'll look at where it possibly might not be as good as it sounds. So before that, then let's go into some history. So history then. Sarajevo International Airport, Lima, Quebec, Sierra Alpha, is a public use international airport owned and operated by the Bosnia and Herzegovina Directorate of Civil Aviation. It is the main airport in Bosnia and Herzegovina, serving Sarajevo, the capital of the state of Bosnia and Herzegovina. The airport is located just over 3 miles or 6.1 kilometers southwest of Sarajevo railway station, and some 7.5 miles or 12 kilometers west of downtown Sarajevo in the Ilizda municipality, a suburb of Butmir. In 2019, over 1 million passengers passed through the airport, compared to just 323,000 or so in 2001. The first regular flights to Sarajevo began in 1930 using an airfield in the suburb of Butmir. The domestic airline Aeroput opened a regular route linking Belgrade to Podgorica via Sarajevo. A year later, Aeroput opened a new route which linked Belgrade and Zagreb via Sarajevo, Split and Rijeka. In 1935, Aeroput operated the non-stop route from Belgrade to Sarajevo 3 times a week, with the service being extended to Dubrovnik a year later. In 1937, the airline began regular flights linking Sarajevo to Zagreb, and in 1938, the first international services were introduced, with routes being extended to Dubrovnik and on to Zagreb, Vienna, Brno and Prague. However, a new, more modern airport was needed, and in 1966 construction began where it is now, not far from the old airport location. The new airport opened in June 1969 for domestic flights to begin with, and in 1970 the first international service to Frankfurt began. The airport was further renovated in time for the 1984 Winter Olympics, adding a runway extension, new navigation system and a new terminal. At the beginning of the Bosnian War, the airport was put under the control of the Yugoslav People's Army, or the JNA, and regular flights were then stopped. After the end of the war in 1996, the airport was slowly restored and services recovered somewhat. Since the Drayton Agreement in 1995, the airport has a commercial flight business, which includes Austrian Airlines, Lufthansa, Air Serbia, Croatia Airlines, Turkish Airlines, and a few others. With Sarajevo Airport suffering regular fog and low visibility resulting in closures and loss of earnings, there are plans afoot to try to overcome this problem. For a Cat 2-3 addition to the runway, this runway has to be moved, which would shorten its use, and this is currently deemed not acceptable. However, there are plans to overcome this problem. Due to the high terrain, runway 29 is used for takeoffs only. Runway 11 is used for both landings and takeoffs. So there you go, folks, a little bit of history. I started out as a small airstrip, managed to sit through the war, and now we have this airport. Quite a small airport sitting amongst the mountains. Visually quite nice, really quite impressive. So let's look at runways now. So runways, here we are, 4:20 in the afternoon, sunset. It's January 2024. And here we are looking down the slope of the main runway. Sarajevo Airport operates a single runway, 1129, measuring 8,530 feet or 2,600 meters, and it's made from asphalt. The airport lies at an elevation of 1,705 feet or 520 meters and sits within the GMT UTC plus 1 hour time zone. Now, like much of Europe, Sarajevo does observe daylight saving time, or DST, which actually has now ended, and so the airport is currently 1 hour ahead of the UK. So runway 11, and we're looking down at the float of that now, features high intensity runway lighting, high intensity airfield lighting system, short field lighting, centerline lighting, and precision approach path indicators on both sides. So here you can see the short field lights, which are the lighting system here. There's the centerline lighting, PAPIs on both sides, and the high intensity runway lighting, including stop lights here as well. We've got runway and identifier lighting here, which actually isn't on the charts, but again it's in the airport scenery, and I have no problem with that, to be honest. Runway 11 features a standard instrument landing system with X, Y and Z approach options. There's also an RMP approach option and an NDB, Y and Z approach option with this runway too. So this is the main landing runway. Let's have a look at the other end, runway 29. So here we are looking down the float of runway 29, which is for departures only, by the way, and here you can see the big extended threshold. This runway features the high intensity runway lighting that's akin to the whole runway here, and has centerline lighting as well. No PAPIs and no approach lights, because of course you're not permitted to land here, and that's because of the high terrain. There are no instrument approach options listed among the charts, because obviously this is for departures only. So that does it for runways. Let's have a look at the jetways. Okay, jetways at Sarajevo. Before we go any further, before we start, I want to just mention a couple of things, and I will show you some pictures along the way. Spawning the aircraft onto a stand, either number 3 or number 4, results in really putting it in the wrong position. It wasn't on the center line, it's actually moved right up here, and the jetway fails to connect because the aircraft is too far forward. Now what I've done here is I've connected the tug, moved the aircraft back, and then moved it forward and repositioned it. Now you can see here it's just a way back from the actual line here, so this probably needs to be corrected by the developer. And actually the jetway will connect, and we'll look at that in a second. I also want to point out this really nice tug. This presumably is a default tug, but it's been changed and it's been properly painted and textured with the Sarajevo markings, so kudos to that. It's really, really good. So spawning on from the menu is going to put the aircraft in the wrong position to connect the jetway, so if that's an issue for you, to connect the jetway, you're going to have to be careful about that or move the aircraft. Taxiing in, same issue. You're going to have to make sure you pull up a bit short so the jetway will connect. So let's have a look at the jetway connection in this proper decent position. Okay, so here we are ready to connect the jetway. As you can see, the one difference here as well is they've got the stairwell way off the ground. So in this particular point it really couldn't be used. But the jetway itself is nicely built, especially the wheels. You can actually see they look like rubber. So they've done quite a nice texturing job here. So let's connect the jetway. So the wheels turn correctly. And actually manoeuvring the jetway is excellent. The stairs are still in this sort of way off the ground at the moment, so they couldn't be used. So unlike many stairs that go through the concrete, these stairs are way up in the air, but that's no big deal. And that looks like a fairly decent connection. Let's look from the a little bit closer. So that's a fairly decent connection. It's no worse than any others I've seen, even though the rubber top has gone through the skin. What I do like about these jetways, as I've said, is the texturing. This really looks like rubber. Okay, and this isn't too bad at all. There's a lack of weathering here, but this is pretty good. This is nicely weathered, and they actually work up and down, and the wheels, not only do they turn to position the jetway, but if you look closely here, this really looks rubbery. So the texturing's very nice. Let's just look from the other side. So there you can see from the other side it looks fine. So let's look inside the jetway. So here you can see we're pretty close inside the jetway. I can't go back any further because this happens. So let's look from inside. And that's quite a nice view. You can see the jetway doors are actually closed, but you can see out from inside the aircraft. So let's disconnect the jetway. And there she goes. It's all pretty nice. You also notice the traffic here that goes down the correct side of the road and actually swerves to avoid this baggage truck that's sticking into the road. All in all, the traffic here looks pretty good, and as you can see, the tug looks wonderful. So there's the jetway test for you. Both stands, jetway stands 3 and 4. This is number 3, number 4 is next door. Be aware, as I said, you spawn directly from the flight sim menu. It puts you in the aircraft position, it puts you in the wrong position really. It brings you all the way out here, and the jetway just will go right through the aircraft. So if you're spawning for the first time straight on the menu for a departure, you'll need to move the aircraft either by slewing or using the tug to position it to get a jetway connection if that's what you want. And that's unfortunate. Those vehicles are very nice, but they're going through the baggage trucks. So guys, if you're watching this, maybe just correct this and everything else should be fine. And also have a look at where we're going to spawn the aircraft, because the positioning is critical here for the jetways to work properly. So there you go, that's jetways for you. Let's get on to the main tour. Okay, so let's start the main tour, and we're going to start at the end by the threshold of runway 29, which you can see here. So let's just start it slowly and do a slow pass. Now I really like the way this place sort of sits together visually. It's very pleasant. Okay, so we have some photographic ground vehicles there. The taxiway looks pretty good. And you've got the fence line that goes around the whole airport, which is also pretty nice. And you've got various other bits as well. I mean, the quality of modelling is quite nice. The buildings are quite impressive to look at. A little bit of weathering on the sides there. The stands look quite good. It's a nice little airport. It's been done pretty nicely, very pleasant. It looks the part, and I think that's what we want really. There's the fire station below. Here you've got areas where there are works going on. no taxiway going down to the other end because mostly takeoffs are on 29 the other end. So let's have a pass landside. You can see they've opted to leave quite a lot of photo bits and pieces around. Vehicles are photos rather than actual vehicles. It's only when you get here to sort of landside properly that you get to see cars, proper cars themselves. We see we've got one or two photo vehicles in amongst the 3D modelling, which actually doesn't really work very well, I'm afraid. But this is landside. It's not really what many of you will be interested in when you're flying in here. But overall, the modelling is not bad at all. The foliage looks great, and the airport sits in a very pleasant location. Here we've got another car park where they've opted to do photoreal vehicles instead of 3D ones. Got a few here as well. I mean, I don't know really, but it smacks of laziness really when you do this sort of thing. 3D vehicles and photo vehicles. Here you've got them standing all over the photo vehicles. And here you've got photo buildings in amongst the real ones. Not sure what that is. It could be a fuel thing, I'm not sure. Here's the fence line, and you've got these other outer buildings here lying out, these hangars possibly lying out here. So while we're here, let's have a look at this taxiway and the signage. Remember, this is 29, this is the main departures runway. Here are the guard lights, or as we know them in the UK, we call them WIGWAGS. All looking pretty good, and you can see them working during the daylight. There we've got the runway and taxiway signs as well. Yeah, it's fine. And after landing, should you need the whole runway to stop at the turning off at the end, there you've got the exit signs denoting the taxiway. There you can see the blue airfield edge lights that will come on in the hours of darkness that denote the perimeter of the airport itself. And note the concrete here. There's been some nice texturing here on the concrete to make it look pretty realistic. And turning our attention to the runway, here you can see what they've done here. There's a sort of a mixture, and the concrete looks pretty weathered. It looks like it's been out here for a while and possibly hasn't been oversurfaced for a while. But yeah, all looks good, looks pretty real. No real complaints. So let's go down to the ramp and have a close look at what we're seeing when we park up. So here's my Phoenix Airbus A320 parked on stand 3. And here you can see the tugs. The Asobo tugs have been replaced by the proper tugs that you see at this airport, complete with the paint job and markings. That's a nice touch. Here you've got the moving air stairs. Looks pretty good. You've also got a blue vehicle as well that moves along here. It's quite nice. Weathering on the side of the building here, and you've got sort of windows here and other bits and pieces. Looks pretty nice. And looking in this direction, here you can see parked vehicles. Again, the vehicle quality is excellent here, as well as the buses and other bits and pieces, cargo containers, more stairs and buildings and the markings. And the road markings all look pretty impressive. So the business end of where you're going to be, parking up and taxiing out, looks pretty real and quite good. So here's a slightly higher level shot looking in the other direction across the ramp. As you can see, the ramp itself looks fine. Really no complaints at all. If you remember the JETWAY test, you can see that the JETWAYs work reasonably well. Positioning of the aircraft is all important. But yeah, I mean, it looks fine. It looks great. There's the blue transit van I mentioned earlier that works up and down. And in this shot here you can see there is some internal development. There's not a lot. I think it's only airside. There are no passengers here, but there are in the other part. We'll have a look in a minute. There's a control tower. No internal development except that it is modelled. Here's the fire station. You've got one fire truck outside and various other bits and pieces that make the ramp, the airside ramp, look pretty nice. No real complaints. So here's a close-up view of the airside part of the terminal. Here you can see the ground level. You've got the radiators here, doors, a couple of passengers and the signage. It's all pretty light, pretty simplistic, no real problems. Here's the upper level where you've got a few more passengers, seating area, and you've even got a shop sort of there, which is it's actually an image just but the interior of the terminal was there, but it's not really constructed. This is pretty much what you see airside. But again, no problems, it's fine. And just a quick look down the road. Here comes our friend in the truck. And there's the transit van, complete with lights as well, which is nice. So here's landside, and you can see the building is nicely done. There really is no internal development inside here other than the structure itself. But to be honest, it's ripe for development if they wanted to do that. And here's the main car park in front of the terminal. Fairly simplistic, even the vehicles are quite simplistic. Here you can see the wheels are missing because these are quite simple car models. You've got the Sarajevo sign and you've got a car stuck behind it. So, you know, I hate to say it, I really need to, my idea is to encourage developers, not sort of bang on their heads all the time, but this really is quite simplistic and it does smack a little bit of laziness. You know, they've not gone the whole way. If they did this whole car park properly, 3D with decent cars, added a few people, doesn't need to be loads of them, they've decided to add them in the airside lounges, scatter a few out here, this would be so much better. And here again you see this evidence of a bit of laziness. The cars aren't properly in the marked spaces even though they've done them, and here they've left photoreal cars literally sitting underneath other cars. It just smacks of care not being taken by the developer. I mean, don't get me wrong, the airport is nice, and for when you come into land and use the airport, everything you need airside as a pilot flying your aircraft in is available, and it's great. And the airport sits in a lovely location, but landside is pretty poor, to be honest. Here you can see the control tower. Again, nicely weathered, all looks quite good from the outside, but you can see through the windows there's no internal development. They do, however, have the rotating beacon on the top. And finally you have the fire station with a fire engine outside it. And again, the modelling is a little bit lax because they've got the end of the building jutting out into the road here. Here comes our friend in the transit van. And he's going right through the truck. That's a pity. Okay, so that's a fairly detailed look during the daytime. I haven't spent a lot of time because there isn't an awful lot to look at. Generally, for daytime operations, I mean, the airport is nice. It's certainly the best one out here so far. I don't think it's the only one. Sarajevo has been quite nicely done, but it's very simplistic. They've done the minimum. And as I said, there's a certain amount of laziness involved, I think, really. But when you look at it from this angle, this is what you're going to see when you come in and park up. Yeah, it's fine, it's just what you need. So let's lower the lighting to dusk and see what the lighting is like. So 4:30 in the afternoon, as you can see, we've got the red glow on the mountings indicating we're at sunset, and we've got some lighting coming on the stands. And it's quite adequate. I mean, we've still got a lot of light here. It looks pretty good. There's a high level shot showing you across the runway. As you can see, the centre line is fully marked. There you've got the entrance. You've got entrance and exit here, which is quite useful. And you can just see the beginning of the blue airfield edge lights coming on. And looking landside, you can see some lighting here over the car park. Can't see any Asobo globes, which is a bonus. And you've got the rotating light on top of the control tower here. And some light at the fire station. And there we are looking out towards the threshold of runway 11. You can see the runway lighting quite adequate. So let's get down to the ramp close up and see how it looks. So this is quite a nice shot here. You've got vehicles moving around just as they should be. Some very nice lighting, perfectly adequate, and also you can see the rotating beacons on the trucks. And the vehicles here parked up have got their lights on, all of which sort of adds a level of realism. Unfortunately, the default stuff here doesn't have any lights on, although one or two are here. But yeah, all looks pretty pleasant. And there we are looking in the other direction. You can see that beautiful red glow on the mountains, and these buildings are quite adequate. And from this view you can see the ramp area still looks quite nice in terms of lighting, and the landside car park, just one of which really is lit, this one isn't, which is probably not a bad thing because all of these are photoreal cars anyway. Again, looking towards runway 29, there's the taxiway sign there down to the lower left. You can see the blue airfield edge lights. Got the big displaced threshold here, and you've got lighting up there. And a quick look at the WIGWAGS, or the runway guard lights as they call them, which is quite nice. I think it's interesting that the WIGWAGS themselves and the glow on the glass is out of phase here. You can see it doesn't quite work, but it's just me. I tend to notice these little things, but you know, that's fine, they work, and this is what you'll see when you taxi up here to do a takeoff. So here, looking at the terminal airside, you can see a little bit of lighting there, just a little bit subtle, that just gives the appearance of seeing the people inside. No lighting coming from the shop there, which is a pity. It's interesting, this airport has lots of little pluses and lots of little minuses. You know, they've got they've built the airport really nicely. You've got weathering all over the place here, it looks really good. Even the buses and everything that's parked up, even the parked vehicles are lit, they have the lights on. You know, and that looks really good. The tugs are properly marked for Sarajevo. But then you've got the downside where they've just used photoreal cars underneath 3D ones that aren't properly placed. But as you can see, generally airside looks great. It's exactly what you need when you fly in here. It's just realistically the attention to detail on the rest of the airport has kind of been left a bit. And there's a quick shot looking towards the end of the runway 11 in the distance there, just to show you some of the rest of the lighting. WIGWAGs here as well, that you can see. Signage in the grass, which is fine. Got this rotating beacon. Actually, the beacon doesn't seem to be visible, it's only the lights. But again, it's just an observation from me, really. But you have these lovely vehicles going up and down the road here, which are lit, and they look like quite realistic here. It's just a pity that the ones landside have been left in the way that they have. Okay, so let's turn the lighting down to nighttime now and see how good it is. Okay, 10 PM local time, and as you can see we're in total darkness here. But the ramp has come up quite nicely. There's a lot of light on the ramp, so the lighting there is pretty good. You won't really have any problems getting off the runway and parking up, or getting out to the runway when you taxi out during the night time. And there in the distance to the left you can see the threshold of runway 11, and down below there you've got a few more vehicles. So once again, just a little tour of airside, which is the meat and potatoes for your pilots. As you can see, lighting's perfectly adequate, you've got everything you need. Yeah, and it looks quite nice. You can still see inside the building there, see the passengers. And again, you see they've done this, they've put chairs in there, but not put any people. It's really weird that they've left that. But again, nice little touches where you've got there the blue light going round and round on the fire truck. There's the control tower. I was going to say that they're missing the red lights on the top that they should have, but actually they have, because you can see the glow. Not really sure where it is though. The lights should be, little lights should be on top of these stanchions. Everything over 300 feet at airports under IATA rules should be lit with a red warning light. But yeah, you know, all a bit strange, but no problem. And here's a look at landside for you. Again, no real problems at all, looks fine. Just as I said, you've got the laziness that's been shown here. We've got vehicles that are not really the best quality. You've got photoreal vehicles as well, and you've got 3D vehicles sitting on top of photoreal vehicles as well. Here the car park in front of the terminal looks quite nice. The cars are low quality really, but again they've just been dumped on the tarmac, and the ground painting that's here hasn't been repeated here. But yeah, there you go, that's what they've chosen to do. Be nice to see if they update this and do a job on it. It's a reasonably well-known airport, and it's the main one really for this area, so it could do with being having a job done on it. But unfortunately what we're looking at probably is just the bare minimum. Airside, you're okay, you've got what you need, and they've got some nice little touches around this airport. But landside, certainly this area here, leaves a lot to be desired. Okay, so here we are at dawn. I've raised the lighting up. It's 7:45 in the morning. You've got the sun coming up over the mountains there. Don't really get the red glow that you see at many other airports. But this looks fine, looks quite nice. There to the right you've got the threshold of 29, and the sun comes up there in the distance over the mountains. And there's a view looking towards runway 11. You've got the mountains there in the distance. It's a lovely little area. It's a really nice location, and it deserves more, I think, than what we've got here. But yeah, it's fine, it's okay. Okay, 10 AM, and it's time to give you my conclusions. Personally, the big question, do I think it's worth the money? Unfortunately, no. 15.59 or so, just nearly 16 euros, including tax, or just over $17. You know, they've concentrated hard on the airside area, and it looks quite nice, even though, I mean, they've done a little bit airside here inside the building where you can see passengers. So for the pilots that come in, your landing and runway, lighting during the darkness hours, all of that's perfectly adequate. A really nice touch to see the tugs and the other vehicles taken over with proper livery and done the proper way. Airside of the terminal's fairly basic, but again, nice to see something there. So everything you need as a pilot when you come in here is great, and the location of the airport is lovely. On the downside, there's a lot of laziness here. Landside, they've just really left it. You know, you've got 3D vehicles, low quality, sitting on top of photo vehicles in car parks that really haven't been properly structured. You've got nice little touches here and there, and then things that you look at that are just, you know, you think, why didn't you do that? So personally, I think this is worth about 10 euros. It's certainly not worth 15. But that said, don't get me wrong, it's currently the best version of this airport. It's the only version, I think, of Sarajevo Airport for Microsoft Flight Simulator. And what it's got is everything you need, and visually it looks very, very pleasant. It's certainly worth flying in here, just for the scenery itself, and for the challenges of landing and taking off in this area. Be nice to see it go on sale, which would make it much more worth it. Or if the developers sort of took on board my sort of thoughts and decided to develop the airport a lot more, then we'd be getting a lot nearer to this price. But you know, overall it's a nice airport. It's been nicely done in so many ways, even though there are big issues in other ways. Yeah, I didn't buy this. I was sent it by the developer for review, for which I give them my grateful thanks, and I apologize if they probably don't like what I'm saying about this, but I would hope that they would take the criticism on board and think about an update or something else in the future. It's a nice airport, sits in a nice location, and I will use it. And so for that purpose I think it's great. I just think it's too expensive for what it is. It's about 5 euros too expensive for what it is. But you know, if you want this airport, there it is, and it's available to buy. and those prices include tax, by the way. So there you go, folks. Sarajevo Airport in Bosnia-Herzegovina. Lima, Quebec, Sierra Alpha. Payware scenery by KISS Simulation. Version 1.1 for the PC version of Flight Sim 2020. Downloads at 901 meg and installs at 2.62 gig. It's available from Sim Market. Price is €15.59, which equates to roughly $17.10 US, or £13.41 UK. As ever, those prices include VAT and tax and their estimates from the euro. And the prices may vary slightly depending on the tax in which country you are in when you make your purchase. Like I said, I think it's a nice airport. It's certainly worth having, but realistically not at €16. It's nearer 10 for me. But then we'll see what KISS simulations do in the future as to whether they develop this further. It's certainly ripe for that, and I think it would be a good idea to do that. So there you go, folks. Thanks for joining me for this first review of the week. I apologise for my voice and the odd cough here and there. I am slowly getting out of this infection. It's been a bit rough, but there you go. Stay with me this week for a review of the new Punta Cana scenery version 2 by Tropical Sim, and see how that compares. I had a quick look over the other day. It's not bad at all. So we'll do an in-depth review of that and have a look at that, and also look out for my first details of the first sector of my world tour trip. So there you go, guys. Thank you very much for joining me, for watching this review. If you like what you see, please like and subscribe. It helps my channel a lot, and I really would like to grow my membership a lot more. So thanks again. I will see you in the next review later this week. Bye for now.